If this season taught us anything, it's that a good transfer class can revive any struggling college football program. TCU, Washington, Florida State, and USC all missed a bowl game in 2021, but after adding multiple starters from the portal, each of their rosters were strong enough to win at least 10 games in 2022. Nebraska's last portal haul included 8 full-time starters, but coaching issues held them back, and we didn't get a chance to see that team reach their full potential. With an entirely new staff, Matt Rhule's philosophy, and over 30 new additions to the roster, there's a reason that Nebraska fans feel good about getting back to a bowl game. We might see more names get added before fall camp, but I feel pretty good about the 9 transfers Rhule landed so far. So today, I'm ranking every transfer addition in Nebraska's 2023 class, and I'll give you my thoughts on the NCAA's new transfer rule. But what's up, guys? I'm Connor Hayden, and this is Corn Crazed. If you're a fan of Nebraska or the Big Ten, make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss any of my off-season content. And if you're pumped about this recruiting class, hit the like button now and help us get to 1,000. But now, let's get into it.
Yet across midfield. Touchdown, Nebraska! Omar Manning!
Yesterday, news came out about the NCAA changing the transfer portal rules for any player who wants to transfer a second time. See, with no structure in this wild, wild west feel, guys were just transferring whenever they felt like it, and they can end up playing at 3 different schools in a 5-year period, which makes no sense because they're not really getting developed and they're more likely to be a flop. Now, with this new second time rule, it basically takes us back to the original that says you're not allowed to leave and play right away unless you have a mental health condition, some family issue, or a legal situation that would be worthy of a waiver. An example, JT Daniels was a 5-star QB who started his career at USC. Then he left for Georgia after he couldn't win the job back, then West Virginia after Stetson beat him out, and now he's on to school number 4 in Rice. His high school teammate, Brew McCoy, pulled the same shit. 5-star receiver who signed with Texas. Then he left for USC. Now he's a starter at Tennessee. He's played in the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the SEC in a 4-year span. Of course, everybody wants to play and wants a fair shot, but it makes no sense to leave multiple schools like Daniels has just because he made a bet on himself and he lost. This rule is going to be good for the players, it's good for the coaches, the teams, and everybody else involved because now there's no easy way out. Guys are forced to work harder and earn a spot if they want to play, and if you're like Tate Martell, hopefully you won't swing and miss because now you only get 2 strikes. In my last video, I talked about the possibility that Matt Rhule might be interested in bringing Xavier Betts back to help bolster that receiver room, and one of the comments told me to get real. So here's the real. Xavier Betts wants to be back at Nebraska, and Matt Rhule wants him back too. I don't know if he's game ready or how long it'll take him to get back in shape, but Betts has the dream size and the speed for this offense, and he could eventually become the #1 receiver that we all hoped he would be. People talk about scholarship numbers being an issue, but with NIL, it's important for you to know it's not. Guys can walk on and leverage an NIL deal to pay for school, which is essentially just a different way for Nebraska to offer a scholarship. And there are multiple guys on the roster today who won't be by the start of fall camp, so there's zero reason to be concerned since this staff is paid millions of dollars to manage all those little details during the offseason. In 2022, Nebraska added 5 guys from the portal between January and May, so even though things are going to slow down, there's still plenty of time to make moves before fall camp starts. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Rhule go after at least 1 more receiver, another tackle or a guard, a nose, or even a linebacker who can play right away. And yesterday, Greg Smith from Rivals announced that former 3-star tight end Brett Seether, who spent the last 3 years at Georgia, is going to take a visit to Nebraska this weekend, and that's a position where there's 0 starting experience. Now, Seether's only made a few catches in his career, but he comes from an elite program where he backed up multiple guys with NFL futures, so playing for a guy like Kirby Smart only helped his development. He's currently ranked number 34 at his position by On3, but getting any veteran player to come in that room is a big benefit right now. Last year I made this same video and I ranked all 15 transfers in, so I want to show you how I ranked the top 10 back then and now that we've actually seen them play, where they really fit. On the left side of this graphic you can see the original rankings I made, and on the right you can see where I put them now. In the original list, I was a little higher on O'Shawn because of the one big year at TCU, but he didn't make as big of an impact as any of us would have hoped, so I had to drop him down a couple spots. Palmer and Washington crushed it in their first season together as the top two receivers, so they made significant jumps over Tommy Hill and Chuba Purdy, who ended up not being as ready to take on starting roles as we thought they'd be. And then I had Devin Drew over Stephon Wynn since Drew had some more game experience from Texas Tech, but I think Wynn's size helped him a little more in the Big Ten, and having this extra year of eligibility made him a more valuable name on this updated list. Casey's the undisputed number one because of how crazy the drop-off was from him to Smothers or Purdy, and since no offense can be successful without a halfway decent quarterback. Having him back for another year is the only reason I can confidently say 6 wins is possible, since this offense will feature 2 QBs with starting experience, and one can be insurance if the other one gets banged up. Now, I want to get into these rankings to let you know who I think will be the most impactful, who has the best chance to start, and who the most important players are in this class. And my rankings are based on position need, past performance, and of course, potential in the new system. So we'll start off with number 9, and that's the long snapper from Florida, Marco Ortiz. He's the number 9 because, as important as it is to have a great long snapper, I think the depth at these other positions is the real priority right now. Marco was the number 6 long snapper in the country coming out of high school, and he was a starter at Florida in 2021 before he ended up with an upper body injury that forced him to miss this past year. But in the portal, he's ranked number 1 at his position. Nebraska lost both their long snappers, so they needed a for sure starter to come in, and Ortiz can definitely fill that role. At number 8, I've got safety Corey Collier. He ranked in the top 5 nationally as a safety coming out of high school, but after only getting a few reps on special teams in his first 2 years at Florida, his ranking dropped a bit in the portal. He's the 26th best player at his position, but Nebraska doesn't need him to play on defense yet. Marquise Buford, Miles Farmer, Deshaun Singleton, and Phelan Sanford all played a bunch last year, and I'm expecting that same group to make up the 2 deep for White this fall. Collier can get developed by one of the best DB coaches in the country and use this year to get adjusted on special teams, then best case scenario, break into the rotation as a junior. At number 7, our third Gator on the list, Chief Borders. He's the 55th rated edge rusher in the portal, but like Collier, he was highly rated coming out of high school, and he has a high ceiling if he can get developed into a starter. He's kind of built like Caleb Tanner, but heavier, and he's still got 3 years left, so he could still add more weight since he's going to play up on the line. And Nebraska lost both Mathis and Nelson, but they returned Butler and Gunnarsson, so although Borders probably won't start this year, White'll definitely want to get him ready to rotate, and Foley can use him on special teams. My number 6 is former Baylor receiver Josh Fleeks, whose career's a bit odd because under Matt Rhule, he had 57 touches with 4 touchdowns in his first 2 seasons as a receiver, but after Rhule left, Dave Aranda didn't find a way to use him. He's going into his 6th year, and I've got to assume if Rhule and Satterfield brought him in, they see him as at least a rotator in the receiver room. Now here's an odd fact that I didn't realize until today. Nebraska's new receivers coach, Garrett McGuire, was the quarterback at Cedar Hill High School and at Baylor from 2013 to 2020. Josh Fleeks went to both schools at the same time as Garrett. So those two were teammates for 7 straight seasons, and now they're back on the field together, just with a different relationship. At number 5, I've got defensive tackle Elijah Judy. Nebraska lost 2 out of their 5 rotators on the inside in Devin Drew and Colton Feast, so any addition's welcome, but especially one who ranks 7th at his position in the portal. Judy spent 2 years at A&M, but their line was pretty good, so he only got in for about 20 plays in that time. Nebraska returns Stephon Wynn, Ty Robinson, and Nash Hutmacher, but with such little depth, Judy should get some opportunities in Lincoln. I don't expect him to be a consistent contributor right away, but because he was such a big-time recruit out of high school, I think Coach Knighton can unlock his potential and turn him into a starter a year or 2 from now. Number 4 is the projected number 1 receiver, Billy Kemp. Washington, Brown, Fleeks, and Kemp are the only 4 receivers on the roster with any game experience, so Nebraska couldn't afford to miss on a top 20 portal receiver since the other options are all true and redshirt freshmen. And although some of those guys will have to play, I expect Kemp to get the most targets. Both Samari Toure and Trey Palmer led Nebraska in receiving before taking off for the NFL, and I think we're looking at a similar situation once again. His history says he's good for 5 to 15-yard routes, and based on the offense Rhule's bringing in, I'd say he found the perfect receiver for Casey or Jeff to hit on those mid-range routes. Number 3 is the new starting center, Ben Scott. Trent Hickson graduated, so Rhule went out and found a 2-year Pac-12 starter to fill a major hole on this O-line. I'm not sure if he's an NFL talent or if he can be developed into that, but the upgrade's going to be felt either way since he's logged almost 1,800 snaps at ASU, and almost all of those came as a starter. Number 2 was a tough choice, but I ended up with Walter Rouse from Stanford. He's the most experienced lineman on the team with over 2,500 snaps, and he's a day one starter at either tackle spot. He left Stanford after David Shaw resigned, and although he wasn't ready to go pro, he was still ranked a top 20 tackle in the portal, and he got offers from Kentucky, Iowa, and OU. Casey got abused last year from edge rushers and blitzes that tackles didn't pick up, so if Rouse can help cut the sacks down a bit, he'll go down as one of the most important portal pickups in the last 3 years. And last at number 1, I had to go with Jeff Sims for a few reasons. First off, do you remember how bad the offense was with no real number 2 to carry the load after Casey got hurt? TCU lost their starter, but Max Duggan came in as a backup and led them to a national championship. Adrian Martinez went down at Kansas State, but Will Howard stepped up and they finished as Big 12 champs. Sims being number 1 on this list isn't about him. It's about getting a proven quarterback who can come in and lead the offense as a number 1 or a number 2. Because how many times in recent memory has Nebraska made it through an entire season with a fully healthy QB1? Now, I would be lying to you if I said I didn't think he deserves some of that hype that FanDuel gave him on their preseason Heisman odds list. But even if Casey can recover from shoulder surgery and win this QB battle, that I promise you is going to be a battle since they're both extremely talented, Jeff Sims will play this year. And without him or Casey, Rhule's probably relying on Purdy, Smothers, or Harburg to lead a game-winning drive in Big Ten play. But portal's been an amazing tool for teams around the country, and as a college football fan, I've enjoyed following all the transfers and getting to see guys move around and play in new systems or play with other guys I follow. And Nebraska's done a fantastic job at this as well, and hopefully this year's class is going to be just as strong as the last. Now, I'd guess the offense reaps the benefit more in 2023, but with young defenders being added, I'm sure those names will get called sometime in the future, and they'll make sure their presence is felt before they move on. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comments below. Do you agree with my list, or are there some changes you would make to it? Who's a newcomer that might not play right away, but you think could be developed into a starter before he graduates? And who from last year's class do you think makes an impact in 2023? I'm hoping Tommy Hill or Omar Brown end up with a bigger role this season since they both had so much hype when they first signed on. But that's all I've got for today, so thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Big Red.